Have you ever stopped to think that the greatest enemy of your energy might not be outside, but inside you? Many people live tired, unmotivated, vulnerable to negative emotions and even influences they can't explain. But few suspect that the root of this may lie in how they manage their own sexual energy. That's right, what you do, or don't do, with it can determine whether your life is protected or exposed to spiritual attacks. And here's something counterintuitive. You don't have to be religious, a monk, or enlightened to understand this. This is a natural law that spans cultures and centuries, confirmed by Eastern masters, Western alchemists, and, today, even by modern studies. When you waste sexual energy without awareness, you are literally opening breaches in your energy field, and it is in these breaches that external forces, visible or invisible, can act. Now, imagine the opposite. Waking up every day with greater mental clarity, a magnetic presence, and a kind of inner strength you can't explain, but that everyone feels. This is exactly what semen retention, combined with correct practices, can generate. It's not magic, it's not superstition. It's energetic science applied to your own body and spirit. If you think all this is exaggeration, wait until you see how ancient traditions describe this practice and why it remains a secret to this day by groups who know its true power. What we're about to explore could forever change the way you view your body, your energy, and even your invisible battles. But before you continue, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any content like this, because what you'll discover in the next few lines isn't the kind of knowledge you'll find easily out there. Everything I'm explaining to you here, I break down more calmly in my ebook The Power of Semen Retention. It was created for those who are starting from scratch and want to know how to apply semen retention to their daily lives in a healthy way, without any crazy ideas or exaggerations. It's a practical guide, straight to the point. Since ancient times, masters and sages from different cultures have spoken of an invisible force that sustains life. In the East, it was called prana by yogis. In China, qi or qi by Taoists. And in the medieval West, vital spirit by alchemists and healers. Despite cultural differences, all agreed that this energy was the basis of physical health, mental clarity, and spiritual expansion. Interestingly, these traditions also associated this force with sexual energy, considering it one of the most concentrated forms of vital power that human beings can generate. Prana, for example, is described in yoga as the breath of life, flowing through subtle channels called nadis and nourishing not only the body but also the mind and spirit. It is absorbed primarily through air, food, and transmuted sexual energy. In Taoism, qi circulates through the meridians and is nourished both by breathing and by specific practices involving the preservation and refinement of semen. The logic is simple. If the energy that creates life is wasted, the body loses vitality. If preserved and transformed, it becomes a source of inner power. Internal alchemy, practiced in different versions in Egypt, China, and even medieval Europe, taught that vital energy could be refined like a raw metal transformed into gold. In the human case, the raw metal was sexual energy, and the gold was expanded consciousness. In these systems, semen was seen not merely as biological material, but as a vehicle for the universal creative force. This understanding went far beyond the purely physiological view, involving subtle laws of energy. Imagine a mighty river. If dammed, it can generate electricity and supply entire cities. If wasted, it simply flows into the sea without any direct use. This is how vital energy works. When a person doesn't understand its importance, they live as if they were letting this water escape without channeling it. However, those who learn to cultivate and direct it experience a profound transformation in body, mind, and spirit. Interestingly, this wisdom, which seemed mystical to the ancients, is now supported by fields such as neuroscience and psychophysiology. Studies show that periods of sexual withholding increase levels of testosterone, dopamine, and even neuroplasticity. This connects to what ancient masters already knew intuitively. Sexual energy directly influences willpower, motivation, and mental clarity. It's not magic. It's a natural law that operates in both the invisible and the measurable. In Indian traditions, there is a term kaladojas, which signifies the refined essence of body and mind. Ojas is said to be generated when sexual energy is preserved and transmuted, becoming a fuel for spiritual awareness. A yogi with a high level of ojas would have a sparkle in his eyes, physical vigor, and personal magnetism. Interestingly, the opposite is also said. The constant loss of sexual energy leads to apathy, lack of focus, and even emotional problems. Taoism, in turn, teaches that Jing, equivalent to the Indian ojas, is the vital essence inherited at birth and stored in the kidneys. Each ejaculation, according to these teachings, reduces a fraction of this reserve, and so Taoist masters created techniques to transmute Jing into Qi, and Qi into Shen, spiritual energy. The ultimate goal was not repression, but sublimation, so that the practitioner would become more resilient physically, mentally, and spiritually. These concepts also appear in esoteric Christianity, albeit in a veiled form. Ancient writings speak of scientific chastity and keeping the temple pure for the presence of the Holy Spirit. When we translate this into the language of Eastern traditions, it becomes clear that purity is linked to the control and elevation of creative energy. It's as if different cultures, separated by thousands of miles, were describing the same universal law with different words. In practice, cultivating this vital energy requires more than just avoiding losses. It's a process that involves a balanced diet, conscious breathing, physical exercise, and, of course, practices of sexual retention and transmutation. It's not something that happens overnight, but each step taken in this direction strengthens not only the physical body but also the subtle fields that protect us. And it's precisely in these subtle fields that the next part of our conversation begins. Because if this energy is the basis of vitality, what happens when it's lost in excess? How does this affect our resistance to external influences, including spiritual ones? This is where we enter a territory many people ignore, but which may explain why so many people feel drained, confused, or emotionally unstable without understanding the real cause. Few people realize, but sexual energy isn't limited to pleasure or reproduction. It's a structural pillar of the human energy field, something that functions as an invisible shield around the body. When this energy is dissipated excessively, especially through frequent and unconscious ejaculations, the auric field loses density and cohesion. It's as if a protective wall becomes increasingly thin and fragile, leaving gaps open to external influences. And here, external influences don't just mean bad things in the physical sense, but also emotional and spiritual burdens. In ancient traditions, the aura was described as a luminous sphere surrounding the body. Masters claimed that its strength depended directly on the individual's physical, mental, and spiritual state. When sexual energy, which they considered the system's central battery, is constantly drained, the luminosity of this sphere diminishes. This manifests itself in subtle signs: dull eyes, chronic fatigue, lack of enthusiasm, and even increased susceptibility to illness. Those who have observed periods of retention clearly notice the opposite: bright eyes, vitality, and personal magnetism. Modern science, even without discussing auras, confirms some of these points. For example, frequent ejaculation can reduce testosterone and dopamine levels, which are directly linked to energy, motivation, and confidence. A drop in these hormones impacts not only mood but also the overall tone of a person's presence. Think of someone who walks into a room and immediately draws attention. Often, this magnetism comes from a strong energy field, fueled by a balanced and focused sex life. In the spiritual realm, masters from various cultures warn that excessive loss of sexual energy weakens natural defenses against what they call energetic parasites. These are thought forms and subtle entities that feed on human vitality, often approaching drained or emotionally unstable people. A strong energy field acts as a filter. Even if these influences try to approach, they encounter resistance. A weakened field, on the other hand, becomes an open invitation. It's like leaving a door ajar at night, with the light on, in a dangerous area. Even if nothing bad happens immediately, the vulnerability is there. The constant depletion of sexual energy, without replenishment or transmutation practices, opens this door wider and wider. This explains why many people who abuse pornography or have unconscious sexual relations report feeling tired, anxious, or confused. It's not just psychological, it's energetic. A practical example is observing monks and yogis who live celibate lives or practice retentiveness for long periods. They often convey a serenity and a heaviness of presence that is difficult to explain. It's as if, even in silence, the space around them is filled with a subtle force. This is no coincidence. They cultivate vital energy, and this energy translates into a dense and luminous energy field, resistant to external influences. This loss of energy isn't just a problem for spiritual protection, but also for the ability to create. Creativity, whether for solving problems, generating ideas, or initiating projects, is closely linked to vital energy. A weakened energy field results in less mental clarity and less creative drive. This is why, in moments of sexual and mental fatigue, even simple tasks seem heavy and dull. It's not laziness, but a lack of energetic fuel. In everyday life, small changes can reduce this loss and begin to rebuild the energy field. Reducing pornography consumption, avoiding merely mechanical sexual relations, and adopting deep breathing practices can already make a difference. Ideally, a person should view sexual energy as an investment. The better managed it is, the greater the return in vitality, clarity, and magnetism. The difference becomes noticeable not only to oneself, but to everyone around them. And here's where an important detail needs to be understood. This energetic shield isn't fixed. It can strengthen quickly when energy is well preserved, but it can also deteriorate quickly with bad habits. It's a dynamic system, constantly adjusting. This means that anyone, at any time, can decide to reverse the weakening and regain strength. But before we can think about strengthening it, we need to understand what exactly we're defending ourselves against. After all, what are the most common spiritual attacks? And how do they actually manifest in our body, mind, and emotions? This is the next step we need to explore to understand the true role of retention as protection. When people think of spiritual attacks, many people only imagine movie scenes, with obvious supernatural apparitions or events. But in real life, they're rarely so blatant. Most of the time, they occur subtly, silently, eroding a person's energy and emotional stability. One of the first signs is extreme fatigue that can't be explained even by rest. You wake up feeling a heaviness in your body, as if you hadn't slept. This is a classic symptom that something is draining energy on the subtle plane. Another very common symptom is sudden anxiety, the kind that appears out of nowhere, for no apparent reason. It's different from anxiety caused by familiar worries. Here, it appears as a tide that invades the mind and body. This may be linked to the interference of negative thought forms, which find gaps in the weakened energy field. They don't need to enter to affect. Just being nearby is enough to alter the emotional and mental state. Mental confusion is another common symptom. The person begins to lose clarity, forgets simple things, has difficulty maintaining attention, and feels disconnected from their own life. This feeling is often accompanied by impulsive decisions or unusual behavior, as if a part of them is not in control. In spiritual contexts, it is said that the weakened auric field loses its ability to filter external influences. Recurring nightmares are also warning signs. When the subconscious is invaded by constant negative images, especially those accompanied by feelings of suffocation, persecution, or falling, this may indicate direct interference during sleep. Resting is one of the most vulnerable moments for the energy field, as the rational mind relaxes and consciousness enters subtle states, and it is precisely then that external forces can act. Spiritual attacks don't always manifest only emotionally or mentally. There are cases where the physical body presents strange symptoms, such as unexplained pain, a feeling of heaviness in the shoulders or neck, unexplained chills, and even sudden changes in body temperature. These symptoms often appear and disappear without apparent logic, and often worsen in certain places or around certain people, indicating an unwanted energetic interaction. There are also more social attacks, situations in which close people begin to act hostile or provoke conflicts without reason. This can be a reflection of indirect energetic manipulation, in which the target person is put under stress through the behavior of others. When the energetic field is strong, these conflicts have little effect. When it is weak, they become highly draining. In some cases, spiritual attacks manifest as sudden life blocks. Projects that were going well stall for no apparent reason, opportunities disappear, and the person feels invisible to the positive flow of life. This doesn't mean everything is caused by external forces, but rather that a vulnerable energy field is more susceptible to influences that create barriers. The most dangerous thing about these attacks is that they tend to be cumulative. One day of fatigue can be ignored, a bad night's sleep doesn't seem like a big deal, but when symptoms persist for weeks or months, the toll becomes profound. This is when the person begins to feel like they're falling apart without knowing why. The danger is that, at this stage, natural resistance is already compromised. It's crucial to understand that these attacks, though invisible, are real and can impact both physical health and mental balance. Ignoring the signs is like hearing an alarm and deciding to stay asleep. The good news is that, just as there are ways to weaken the energy field, There are also ancient and modern methods to strengthen it and shield yourself from these influences. And this is precisely where semen retention comes in as one of the most powerful tools for creating this natural shielding. But before we talk about techniques, we need to understand how this specific practice affects the density and cohesion of the auric field. Semen retention has always been seen by spiritual masters as a strategic resource for expanding life force. It's not just about saving energy, but transforming the creative essence into fuel for the entire organism, physical, mental, and spiritual. When this energy is preserved, it accumulates like an internal reservoir, nourishing the auric field and making it denser and more cohesive. It's like replacing a wooden fence with a stone wall. The level of protection changes. Want to start your journey with awareness and confidence? Then click on the first pinned comment now, get the ebook, and take the first step toward your transformation. It's all there, clear, objective, and designed for those who truly want to evolve. Taoist monks, for example, used retention as part of a set of internal alchemy practices. They believed that Jing, the sexual essence, could be refined into Qi, and then into Shen, increasing not only physical vitality but also mental clarity and spiritual connection. This refinement did not happen by chance. It required discipline, breathing techniques, and exercises to circulate energy throughout the body. Over time, the practitioner began to feel more centered, unperturbed by external influences. Accounts from Indian yogis confirm this perspective. They describe that, after weeks or months of retention, the mind becomes more stable, intuition sharpens, and the body seems to radiate a subtle warmth, even at rest. It's as if every cell is charged with life. These masters also claim that personal magnetism increases naturally, without the need for conscious effort to impress others. Presence, in and of itself, becomes striking. In the modern world, some practitioners report similar changes. Men who practice retention for long periods report increased focus, improved physical performance, and even a greater ability to positively influence their surroundings. One compared the experience to walking with an invisible force field, not in the literal science fiction sense, but in the realization that negative situations seem to have less of an impact on him. This energetic strengthening occurs because semen contains precious nutrients and substances, such as zinc, selenium, and specific proteins, which, when preserved, continue to nourish the body. More than that, from an esoteric point of view, it carries the signature of the creative force, and this signature, when not wasted, radiates to the auric field, making it more compact and resilient. Energy stops dispersing and begins to circulate in a more orderly manner. With a denser energy field, the openings for spiritual attacks decrease. Sensations such as sudden fatigue, mental confusion, and anxiety tend to diminish, as the natural barrier is strengthened. It's not that retention creates an impenetrable shield, but it increases resistance and resilience, making it much harder for external energies to penetrate or take hold. Another interesting effect is that, over time, retention causes the body to recalibrate its own energy production and distribution. It's as if the system learns to work more efficiently, sending energy to areas that were previously neglected. This process not only strengthens spiritual protection, but also improves performance in physical and mental tasks. It's worth remembering that this practice isn't just for monks or ascetics. Anyone can benefit, even if they don't live in seclusion. The key is to combine retention with habits that support energetic strengthening, such as a balanced diet, exercise, and transmutation techniques. Without this, accumulated energy can stagnate or even generate internal tension, which we'll see later. And, of course, retention is only part of the equation. For it to be truly effective in protecting against spiritual attacks, it must be combined with active methods of directing and shielding energy, techniques we'll explore in the next step, so that this creative force not only maintains itself but also acts as a conscious and powerful shield. Semen retention, by itself, naturally strengthens the energy field. However, when combined with specific practices, its protective effect multiplies. Among the best known are deep breathing, meditation, transmutation of sexual energy, and protective prayers. These techniques act as catalysts. They accelerate the circulation of energy, prevent it from stagnating, and create an active shield against external influences. It's not just about accumulating, it's about making energy work for you. Deep breathing is one of the simplest and most powerful tools. Inhaling slowly through the nose, expanding the abdomen, and exhaling slowly, imagining the energy rising from the base of the spine to the crown of the head, helps transmute sexual drive into overall vitality. This practice, done daily for 5 to 10 minutes, keeps energy moving and reduces accumulated tension. It's like opening channels for the life force to circulate freely, irrigating the mind and body. Meditation acts as a stabilizer for this energy. When the mind is agitated, even powerful energy can dissipate. Sitting in silence, focusing on the breath or a fixed point, allows sexual energy to integrate into the nervous system, rather than causing restlessness. Some masters recommend specific meditations in which the body is engulfed in a sphere of golden light, which expands and repels any negative interference. This mental image, repeated consistently, becomes a protective anchor. Transmuting sexual energy is key to ensuring lasting benefits from retention. This means directing accumulated energy toward creative, spiritual, or physical goals. It can be channeled into writing, studying, training the body, or deepening spiritual connection. Without this transmutation, energy can turn into frustration or restlessness. It's like having a dammed river. If it's not channeled to generate useful energy, it can overflow and cause havoc. Prayer for protection also plays an essential role, even for those who don't follow a specific religion. It serves to align intention, mind, and energy, creating a high vibrational field. It can be a traditional prayer, such as the Lord's Prayer, or your own words that express gratitude, strength, and trust. The important thing is that it be said with presence and true intention, as it is the vibration generated that reinforces the energetic shield. Visualizations of energy shields complement these practices. Imagine a field of light around you, gold, white, or blue, and feel this light pulsing like a protective magnetic field. This practice, when combined with retention, creates a physical and emotional sense of safety, strengthening the auric field and hindering the entry of harmful energies. Physical exercise also helps energy circulation. Walking, strength training, and martial arts not only strengthen the body but also keep sexual energy integrated into the system, reducing the risk of stagnation. An active body is like a fully functioning power plant. It transforms accumulated energy into physical and mental power. Conscious eating completes the package. Fresh, natural, and nutrient-rich foods support vital energy production, while processed foods, excess sugar, and alcohol drain the energy field. Restricting your diet without paying attention is like trying to fill a leaky bucket. Some of your energy is lost due to internal wear and tear caused by bad habits. When these techniques are combined, the result is a state of cohesive, directed, and protected energy. The person not only maintains a strong auric field but also becomes active in their own energetic defense. However, there are pitfalls that can negate or significantly reduce these benefits, and many people don't even realize it until it's too late. And it is precisely these traps that we need to talk about now, so that the retention and strengthening effort is not wasted by subtle but decisive errors. Many people begin practicing semen retention enthusiastically, but end up frustrated when they don't see the results they expected. This happens because retention alone doesn't guarantee transformation. There are subtle, and sometimes even counterintuitive, mistakes that drain accumulated energy or cause it to stagnate. The most common is accumulating energy without giving it direction. It's like having a car with a full tank of gas but not starting the engine. The gas is there, but it doesn't move anything. Another common mistake is excessive tension. Some practitioners view retention as a battle against themselves, creating a state of constant vigilance and repression. This mental and physical rigidity blocks the natural flow of energy, generating anxiety, irritation, and even insomnia. Retention shouldn't be a prison, it should be a cultivation. It's like caring for a plant. It's not enough to simply prevent it from being uprooted, it needs to be watered, given sunlight, and given space to grow. Pride is also a great saboteur. When practice begins to bring more vitality, magnetism, and self-confidence, it's easy to fall into the trap of feeling above others. This inflated ego not only alienates people but also alters energetic vibration, creating fissures in the auric field. Ancient masters warned, true strength lies in being discreet, as ostentation attracts unwanted attention and energy. Another tricky point is using retention without taking care of the mind. Sexual energy is intensified during practice, and if there's no mental discipline, it can turn into sexual obsession. It's the famous gathering gunpowder and playing with fire. The result can be more intense relapses or compulsive behaviors. Therefore, practices like meditation and focusing on clear goals are essential to channel this energy. Stagnation is another real danger. When energy isn't moved, it can create internal pressure, resulting in restlessness or even physical symptoms, such as discomfort in the pelvic region. Physical exercise, breathing, and conscious transmutation are essential to maintain the flow. It's not enough to hold it in, it must circulate and transform. There's also the mistake of neglecting physical health. A poor diet, irregular sleep, and excessive stress drastically reduce the quality of accumulated energy. Retention doesn't work miracles if the body is failing. It's like trying to store pure water in a dirty reservoir. The contents become contaminated. Taking care of your body is the foundation on which vital energy is sustained. Some fall into the trap of believing that retention replaces all other personal development efforts. It's powerful, but it's not a magic bullet that solves everything on its own. Without study, spiritual practice, and inner work, accumulated energy can dissipate into trivial distractions. It's like inheriting a fortune and spending it without investing. The power quickly fades. Another mistake is not being clear about the why of practicing. Those who begin without a defined purpose tend to give up sooner or get lost along the way. Retention needs to be in the service of something greater: spiritual growth, mental improvement, achieving goals. When there is direction, energy flows. When there isn't, it disperses. Finally, there's the risk of using retention to fuel emotional addictions, such as the excessive search for external validation. In this case, all potential for empowerment is drained to maintain destructive patterns. Internal vigilance is needed to recognize when the practice is serving the ego instead of evolution. Avoiding these mistakes not only preserves energy but ensures that every drop of accumulated life force is converted into protection, clarity, and personal power. And now that we understand how to keep this energy pure and active, it's time to connect everything we've seen and pave the way for the beginning of this journey. If you've made it this far, you've already realized that semen retention goes far beyond simple physical control. We're talking about shielding your energy, strengthening your presence, and creating a natural resistance against influences that drain your life force. The knowledge you now possess is a rare tool, but it only works if put into practice. It's not enough to simply understand the concept, you have to live it. So, look at your routine. Where is your biggest energy drain? Is it overstimulation, lack of purpose, or unconscious waste? If the answer is yes to any of these, it's a sign you need to act today. Every day you spend wasting vital energy is a door you leave open to what shouldn't enter. The question remains, will you continue to give your power away, or will you embrace it? Will you choose to be vulnerable or learn to walk with a sense of security, with cohesive energy and complete focus on what truly matters? These answers define not only your present, but also your future. Now it's up to you. Try applying at least one of the techniques we've shared here and observe how your body, mind, and energy field respond. And remember, transformation begins the moment you decide to take the first step. If this content resonated with you, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Here, you'll continue learning how to protect your energy, strengthen your spirit, and live consciously and powerfully.